Okay, so we're now going to look at if we look at our, here we're going to work on this. We're going to make a circular, kind of a spiral kind of grill over the top rather than the square one here. I think it'll look better. Okay, so at the moment, I'm just looking at where the blades are. They're quite tight to the end here. So I think I could move the grill and the blades and the center column backwards slightly. So what I'm going to do is yours might not be as bad as mine, but if it is, you can select, and then with the Alt key, just select the parts you don't need, and then we can then move those back. Let's have a look at the perspective view so we're not losing any. They were quite far out before they were like this, so we just want to go inside something like that, just so you've got a little bit of space. Let's move them out a bit more, just a touch. Now we've got some space for the grill. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly save that. Okay, so if you using your Alt key to rotate and you can't really focus on the object, the best thing to do is to click on the actual object itself, and then when you rotate it, you've got full focus on that area. Okay, so let's have a little look at this grill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a helix. So we need to go into shapes, splines, and a helix. Now this can be quite tricky to get right. So we'll just have a little go at this. So I'm going to go out first, and then down, and then across like that. So it's 3 kind of drags. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees so I can see what I'm doing. Place it next to my front view here. So if you've got this icon clicked here, if it isn't selected, select it. If you're ever going to rotate anything 90 degrees, 180, 360, if you use this angle snap toggle, then when you rotate an object and you hold down your shift key, it will snap to 90 for you. Otherwise you'll be trying to do it manually and it's very tricky. Did that move slightly? Let's have another go at that. Let's say 90. Okay. And then I'll go back to move. I'll move it out so we can see it next to. So at the moment you can see it's far too big. So what I'm going to do is, if we go to the modify, we can then with the helix you can do something like this. So with the radius, and what you want to do is you want to leave the center section like it is here, just so we can move it around the center section you've got here. Okay, so we'll do that. So let's go back into the helix. Radius 2. You might need to go back to your perspective view to see this. So radius 2 would be, let's see, we don't want to go any higher than that. The height, it'll go in and out. So what we could do is we could just, you want to give it a little bit of a kind of a convex shape, because you want it to kind of like bow slightly there. So what we'll do now is we'll move it into the area where we're looking at. So obviously you can see that this needs to be reduced somewhat. Okay, so we need to try and get it in the middle if we can. You can use your center section there to try and position it as best you can around the area itself. Okay, and then what we can do now is we can add some more, we can add some turns to it. So we can do some extra turns. We can adjust the, so I'm trying to get this here at the same width or the same area as the outside. You can see this one here is slightly out, so let's just try and get that as best we can in the middle. And then I'm just going to just reduce the first radius, as I say, just like that. So it's very similar to the center temporary column we put in earlier on. Okay, let's just have a look at that now. And let's, lost it. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we're getting somewhere. That's not too bad at all. Yeah, that's all right. That's okay. Now, what I did forget to do is the if we have a look at our, well, it's not, you can't really see it there, but what I want to do is add a little frame around here. And I kind of should have done that first, but not to worry. Well, I will click on this. We'll leave the helix there for the minute, and we'll come back to that. Now we've got our shape and our radius and our size and our turns. We're happy with that. Let's go to the main unit and let's isolate that. So what I'm going to do is go back to my front view here, and I'm going to create a, back to standard primitives and select a cylinder. And again, we want to get it as close to this as we can. Let's just get that so it's matching. A little bit further out though, because obviously we want to create the frame. Let's have a look at this. Move that out. Let's go to modify. Let's just move that back a little bit like so. Tell you what I'll do, I'll just scale it up a touch and reduce it down later on. Okay, so what I want to do now then is I will convert this to an editable poly, go onto my faces, and I'm going to click on the, what am I going to do here? Let's click on the back face, delete that for a start. And let's go to my pie. If you hold your shift key down, select faces, should let you, there we go, you only want, there we go, the faces. So it's a bit tricky, hold down the shift key and then until it goes kind of reddish, and then save you clicking on them all individually. You can just select the ones you want. Okay, so let's try now, and oh, what's that? let's try now, and let's give it a extrude, and we'll go to local normal, and we want to just come in slightly. As I say, we can edit this afterwards. So we're just trying to create some extra geometry here for the frame. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. And then if I click on that, I can then move that. Oh, what I should have done was extrude that. What I tried to do then was move it back, but obviously it's attached to those. So let's extrude that, and we want to go backwards. Okay, so it's at the back there. It goes behind. Okay. Right. Okay. So what we can do now is if we click on the poly itself, we can then let's just scale this down so we are working like so. Okay, and then we can move it back so it forms a kind of a rim for us here. Okay, now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and chamfer these edges here to try and make them a bit rounder. So if we go to let's try border select. Again, hold down the shift key. Let's try edge seam. There we go, holding down the shift key. Okay, so maybe I'll have to do these individually. Okay, just making sure I've just got the edges. So control to add. Maybe get to that one. Okay, I think that's them all done. So then we're going to go to a little chamfer, and we're going to it's a little tricky. Something like that. That's not too bad. It's quite rounded. Okay, and then we'll hit OK. And then if you wanted to, you could move it back. Okay, so we've got now, if we take off the isolation, we've got, let's see if I can isolate two of those. There we go. We've got that. So let's just click on this a minute, and let's isolate that. Okay, so we've got something like this. So what I want to do is see if we can add a turbo smooth to this. Let's see what it does. Okay, it makes it kind of bowly shape there. That's not quite what we want. So let's just delete that. Okay, so let's delete the back. And then let's put a swift loop. Come on. Oh, don't know why this is being such a pain. Yeah, now what I want to do is add a one there, one there. Let's add one inside there and put one here. Well, the reason we're doing this, we're adding geometry to it. So before, what it was doing, it was folding it too smooth because it had no nothing to so it was taking the geometry and it was just making it far too smooth because there was no kind of additional geometry added into it, like we did with the blades for the let's put one there for the air conditioning unit. Okay, it's tricky. There we go. Let's just see if this works now with the turbo smooth. That's better. That's better now because obviously because we added more swift loops into this, as the turbo smooth takes effect, it takes on board the extra geometry. Otherwise, it'll just guess if it's not modeled correctly. And that's quite high poly now. It's a quick little render of that, and that's quite a nice little drum. So I'm quite happy with that. So let's just de-isolate everything, and let's there you go. It's nice now. Okay. So just a reminder, if you are going to add a turbo smooth, you do need to add additional geometry into it, so it knows the parameters of where to smooth and where not to. If you don't add geometry, it'll just do it for you, and it won't be as accurate as you want it, as you've just seen. So now we've got this, we can now add a swift or sweep loop, sorry, sweep modifier, and we want to have a what do we want? We don't want a tree. Pipe. Okay, we'll go for the pipe one. And we will then just reduce the geometry down like so. Okay, so we can see we've got the helix there. Let's knock that up a little bit more. Okay, we can do that a bit more. I think let's try 2. And then what we'll do is we'll move that back into position. Okay. Now again, you've got this element here, which is a bit of a pain. So we could either reduce this down, so that's not too bad. It's still okay. Okay, so we've got this little bit here. What can we do here? What can we do here? Now, what we could do is we could kind of leave it like that, or if we go to the helix, or if we turn off the swift loop, sorry, and go to our oh, what have I done here? What I'm after So I want to go to the helix. And I want to be able to click on these these points here. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I will interpolation. Trying to get hold of the. Okay, so let's collapse that. And if we go into the vertices, maybe I can grab those and just move them in slightly, just so it's contacting into the frame itself. Editable poly, and then we've got something like that. Okay, so you can see it's coming together nicely. You've done the frame around the outside just to give it a bit more detail here, and you've worked on the helix, which is kind of like the grill for the actual unit itself. Okay, so we'll leave it there for that tutorial. The next tutorial we'll work on the center section here. We'll pull it out, we'll do some extrudes and some bevels just to cap it off so it's holding everything together. Okay, so there we go. I'll save that.